So you might have heard on the 23rd of April, there was a really huge wave of protests in Argentina. Something like 400,000 people, it was estimated, perhaps up to 1 million all around the country, protested in the streets. This was spurred by something very specific this time, which is Javier Milei, who is like the Reddit anarcho-capitalist loser who has the hot story sister and believes that his dead dog convenes with him and tells him what to do, decided to just freeze the budget that the government gives to public universities. If you don't know, Argentina has a really robust system of public universities that are all fee-free for anyone who wants to study there. And in this country, private universities are for people who are too bad to go to the public universities, because the public universities are the ones that have all the prestige. So it's like reverse from what I understand it's things like in the rest of the world. So Argentina had something like 200% inflation last year. So obviously, if you freeze the budget, you don't update it for the new year, that basically means that in real terms, the budget has been cut by a massive amount. In this case, it was cut down to around a fifth because they did not update it with inflation. There's a graphic showing precisely how bad it was. And his government, by the way, they're the biggest, most pathetic liars I've ever seen in my life. I'll explain in a second exactly how. So this is an article from InfoBay, which is like really a far-right publication. And even they are being honest about this. So here's the graph. It shows, in real terms, the budget for national universities in Argentina, for state-run universities in Argentina, based on transfers made from the government to them for their running costs. And as you can see here, all fine, relatively equal for the last, 15 years or so. And then suddenly, Milei comes in, and we get basically the budget has been reduced to a fifth of what it was the previous year, which is a cut that is so grave that it makes it impossible for them to even operate. So what he's doing is clearly intentionally trying to destroy public universities in Argentina in general. Like, he wants them gone. He wants them closed. And what better way to do that than to first cut their budget to unworkable levels so they can't fucking even operate, and then use the fact that the fact that you cut their budget to unworkable levels makes them suck to justify closing them down or privatizing them. Classic strategy. It's what neolibs always do. And what they did is, if you look at this graph, you can see there's two purple things here. So when the press and everyone was being like, wait, what are they doing to the university budget? This is fucked up. They're going to destroy the universities. They went and they announced like an increase to the university budget, but only to the budget for university-run hospitals and building maintenance, which is 1% and 7% of the total budget respectively. So they went back and they adjusted for inflation, 8% of the budget, and they made official announcements saying, it makes no sense that they're protesting. We've already fixed the budget. We came to an agreement. These people are just protesting because they want to overthrow our government. But it's obviously a fucking lie anyway, because all they did is updated the budget for these two relatively minor parts, which constitute 8% of the total yearly budget. And as you can see here, this first purple bar is the initial budget relative to the previous years. And the one after that is the budget relative to the previous years, with their increases that they announced factored into it, and it's barely increased at all. So they're basically just professional fucking liars. So because of this grave threat to the future of public universities in Argentina, which are some of the best in the region, I believe the University of Buenos Aires, which has something like 200,000 students, or is it 1 million? I honestly don't remember. I think 1 million is the total of the university students in the country. 200,000 is the University of Buenos Aires' total students. Because of that, these are some of the best universities in Latin America, some of the best in the world as well. It's the Spanish-speaking world as well. And this fucking loser, who somehow became the president, what a fucking embarrassment, Argentina, get your act together, wants to destroy that, wants to destroy one of the few things about this country that actually unequivocally, undeniably works very well. And this resulted in mass protests against him, organized for the 23rd of April in defense of public universities. Protests which many, many people came to. I'll show you some pictures. This is a photo from the air. So you can see this is like the Plaza de Mayo, which is like the plaza out front of the executive branch building in not in the center, but in what is nonetheless called the center of the city. And this is like 400,000 people. They filled the streets all the way up from here to the front of the Congress building, which I believe is like 10 blocks away, something like that. It was absolutely massive. Anyone with even a stroke of a conscience went, including even a fair few right-wing politicians, and it was fucking massive. And the government's absolutely in fucking tatters, trying to deal with like how bad this looks for them, doing everything possible aside from actually giving the universities the budget that they need to continue operating. And I gotta say, it's fucking wild that these protests are not happening every single day, given what they're doing. There was also another huge protest against them last month, which I didn't cover yet, but not as big as this one, but still huge. They also filled the plaza as well and the surrounding streets, but it still wasn't not as many people, which is like the day of memory for the last dictatorship in Argentina. Government started posting like denialist stuff, denying the amount of people that were killed, drawing equivocations between the victims of the dictatorship and the dictatorship themselves. And in reaction to that, like, it ended up causing probably the highest turnout that certainly I've ever seen. So that's at least something positive. I did talk about the denialism in February, but I haven't gotten to talk about them going full on denialist in March. Like, they uploaded a bunch of videos to like official government accounts, essentially doing like soft denialism for the dictatorship. You know, like the sort of denialism that you do when you're too much of a fucking pussy to just admit that you support it. Like, you're like, I'm just asking questions about the number of people they killed, or I just think the people they killed perhaps had part of it coming, rather than outright saying that you support it because they're fucking pussy cowards. That sort of thing. If Argentina was a good functioning country, there would be laws to put you in jail for saying that sort of thing. But unfortunately, it's not, so there isn't. But yeah, so Argentina's amazing public universities are at risk of being destroyed by this fucking loser in just 5 months. Absolutely fucking disgusting and a total joke. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. It does give me a bit of faith in the people of this country to see so many of them coming out into the streets and stuff. But it also is kind of sad that any of this is happening at all, that anyone is dumb enough to be manipulated by this guy and people like him. Because Jesus Christ, man, there's a certain point where I'm struggling to believe that some people are just not too stupid to even understand these sort of things and what's even going on around them. Because you got to be a fucking dumbass to be manipulated by these people. I'm sorry. But yeah, so you might have heard about the protests in Argentina, and that's a bit of a short explanation on them and other recent developments regarding the Milei government, which unsurprisingly, and if you watch my video on the main channel about Johnny Harris, I talked about this regarding what always happens with neoliberal shocks. They always cause the same exact thing to happen, which is a massive drop in real wages, which never recovers unless a new government comes in and does something to change the situation. And that, combined with a massive transfer of wealth from those, you know, obviously the drop in wages has to go somewhere, and the answer is that it goes to the upper classes, you know, the owner class. And that's exactly what's happening here. All the data shows it happening. The real wage has dropped 20% in just 5 months. And that is catastrophic. That's an equivalent drop in the real wage to what happened in the Argentine 2001 economic crisis, which is widely considered to be the worst in Argentina's history. So yeah, 20% drop in real wages in 5 months is incredible. It's horrible. And his government, of course, has absolutely nothing to show for what they're doing in terms of people's standard of living, you know, putting food on the table, people's wages, stuff like that, because they're not designed to improve those. They're designed to benefit the rich. They're designed to benefit foreign companies, corporations, what have you. So the things that I've been pointing to are like, American investors are more interested in the Argentine economy. American investors are buying more Argentine stock. They're lowering the budget deficit. And when they say that, what they mean is they're basically cutting social services to lower the budget deficit, to make the country safe for investment for foreign companies. And it's like all of the metrics that they use to judge their performance have nothing to do with the actual welfare of human beings, which is exactly what you would expect. They're designed to benefit. They're not designed to benefit normal people. They're not designed to better the standard of living of people in Argentina. They're designed to benefit Yankee businessmen, and a limited subsection of the Argentine bourgeoisie. So, yeah, I'll just show you. There was an article that asked the question of what has Milei done to reach the fiscal deficit being zero, as he's bragging about. which, by the way, is completely ridiculous because the vast majority of countries in the world, including the richest ones, have a constant public debt. Like they run at a loss because they're a fucking country. They're not a business. They don't need to make profits. So this idea that like you need to have zero deficit, where does that even come from? Because there's no empirical proof of any like successful country, any country with a solid standard of living, any so-called rich country where fiscal deficit zero is some sort of requirement. If anything, the evidence proves the opposite, that it's better to run at a fucking loss because that's what most countries in the fucking world do. The whole point of this is to basically make the country less of a risk for foreign investors and make them money. It has nothing to do with increasing the standard of living for normal people or anything like that. Here's a graphic that shows what he's done to reach his much lauded zero deficit. 35% of it has come from pensions and retirement savings. 2% from welfare payments to families. 5% from the massive cut. Sorry, I didn't show the graphic. Here it is. 5% from the massive cut to the budget of universities. So basically, around 55% of the spending that the government has cut has come from government programs that benefit human beings. So it's no fucking wonder that real wages have fallen by 20%. It's no fucking wonder that the governments, try as they might, whenever they point to like a metric of standard of living or anything, all they can do is point to things like, we've lowered the deficit, Argentine stocks are booming. Things that have, can you eat a stock? Does an American businessman buying stock in an Argentine company increase your standard of living? Can you buy a house with a zero fiscal deficit? Is that a thing that you can spend? No, none of this has any sort of effect on the lives of normal people. In fact, it makes their lives worse. Sorry, it does have an effect. It makes their lives worse. It's pure class warfare, taking from the working class and giving it to the upper class. That's what governments like this exist for, and the evidence has shown it overwhelmingly for decades. If you want that evidence, you can get it from my video about Johnny Harris. Yay! This one. If you watch... This is the one where I go into like the history of neoliberalism and what it results in and stuff like that in way too much detail. So go and watch that if you want, and me going over the empirical evidence for everything that I just said. And I'm wearing the same hoodie. Epic. Anyway, yeah, that's the customary Bad Empanada periodical Argentina update for you.